A lot of people can't put themselves out there on social because their jobs would not allow it, because there's still a lot of old school thinking out there. So you don't have to be social on the outside of social, but you have to work social. So if you treat social as your Rolodex, right? If you treat social as the place where you house your contacts, but then you work the inside of it, and people don't want to hear this, but you work the phone, you have to have conversations with people. As long as you're using social to get people into your world, to have actual human conversations with people, you'll be golden. But just posting and just doing this and just doing that, like, there's exceptions to every rule. People get TikTok famous overnight and stuff. But if you're doing any sort of service-based business, you're selling anything with a comma in it, a comma requires a conversation.
Hey, it's Logan Renee of the SOULKATIon podcast, a place where you will learn how to shape your own success, maximize your unique gifts, maintain your self-love, and so much more when we get back from thanking our sponsors. Are you ready to snatch your permission slip back and take charge of your life? Well, this podcast is sponsored by the #1 new release book, Never Ask for Permission Again. Grab your copy today by clicking on the link in the show notes. And now for your SOULKATIon announcements. We have a live class that we're super excited about for this month. And we're going to be talking about building consistent income, whether it's in your business or real estate or investments. We're going to talk about the truth and the lies around money. We're going to talk about building assets. We're going to talk about having a wealth mindset, the tools that millionaires use, life insurance, real estate 101, investing mistakes, and actual first steps where you can start to not only save money. We're going to talk about tithing and how that's always a return. We're going to cover it all. So you want to make sure that you're there Thursday, May 27th. Where can you find this information? Make sure you're a part of the SOULKATIon Tribe Facebook group. We give all the details there. Also, make sure you mark your calendars for the 2021 SOULKATIon Retreat. I just want to be the real me. We're going to talk about releasing self-doubt, unpacking brokenness, loving the woman that you truly are, forgiving the woman that you were, having a mindset that's set to be a CEO, that's set to be a leader, that's set to be a woman that runs a podcast, that's set to be a woman that has a New York Times bestseller. Who is that woman under the title? That's where we're going to cover. So we'll see you Saturday, August 28th. All of the details are in the show notes as well as on loganrenee.com. We'll see you there. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the SOULKATIon podcast. I'm here with Liz Dederer. I'm so excited about this interview because we're going to talk about some sales, things that a lot of women are scared of. She's about to knock all of that fear out because in order to make money, you have to sell something, right? Even if you're selling yourself to get another job, right? So we're going to talk about that. Liz, welcome to the podcast.
I'm so excited to be here. So much energy. I can't wait. Love it.
Give us a little background about Liz. How did Liz get into the world of sales? Especially as a woman, you know, they try to put us down, honey, like we can't sell nothing.
I never self-identified as a salesperson because of all of the negativity around it. But I grew up in retail. That was like my main jam. The early part of my career was in the stores, and I went into the corporate and all of that sort of stuff. My last corporate job, I was at Carter's in Oshkosh, actually not in sales, but I wrote the training program that all of their retail store associates follow. But before that, I was vice president of sales and marketing for a wholesale shoe company, literally had sales in my title, never identified as a salesperson. But I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years, 10 as a side hustle, 10 full time.
Wow.
And even as an entrepreneur for the past 10 years, it wasn't until my clients pointed out to me that I was really good at sales conversations and that's what they needed my help with, that it's like I'm a slow learner. It takes me a minute sometimes, but that's when it started to become clear to me, like, oh, maybe I am good at this. Because the business I started that got me out of corporate was a web design and marketing agency.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. And I never identified as a salesperson because I was solving problems.
Right.
I was just helping people. Like with the web design, if you think back like 10 years ago in technology, if you had wanted to have a website, you were basically paying like a mortgage a month and you didn't have access. And if you wanted to change your phone number, you had to email your web designer and it was a huge pain. Well,
Yeah.
along comes this like franchise type company that had a proprietary platform that gave business owners basically like the key to their website.
Mm.
I was like, this is great. This solves a huge problem. It's very cost effective. It's fairly easy for them to use, and they can have access to their own website. Firm believer, you should always have the keys to your own store. So I was really excited to get out and sell that. And that's what got me out of corporate. Prior to that, like I said, when I was vice president of sales and marketing for a casual luxury shoe line, I still didn't see myself as in sales. I had fabulous line of shoes that I was repping and we were doing a lot of PR with the shoes. So I was driving up and down the East Coast, all over the country, hitting, I would target kind of bigger independent boutiques. And in order to get my shoes in there, I would say, listen, you guys are an up and coming store. I really want to get these shoes in here. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lock off a radius, not let anybody else in this kind of radius buy the shoes. You're going to have individual access to them. We're going to put them in Vogue. We're going to put them in whatever magazine, and you'll be the only place in the area that sells them. So to me, I was solving their problem of not getting enough advertising in. And the cost for that was that they buy a lot of shoes to wholesale.
Right.
And never, never thought of it as sales.
Mm.
Never.
I mean, sounds like negotiation and sales to me.
It's 100% all of that. But to me, I just always approached it through the lens of, I just want to help solve problems. Like the literal tagline for selling with service in my company is helping more people help more people.
Mm.
That's where my motivation has always been.
That's good, Liz. It's catchy and memorable.
I try.
So, how was that transition from going from corporate, answering to people, answering emails that you roll your eyes at all day, to going to, your own baby, literally your own?
Well, you made an assumption that I listened to people and answered to them.
I won't tell. I won't tell.
Didn't exactly work out that way. Always did my own thing. Always beat to my own drum. It cost me a couple jobs. Whoop-de-doo, their loss, right? And at the last one, this is how it happened, right? So I had this little whatever job at Carter's in Oshkosh. Long story, post-recession, I was going to take whatever was presented in front of me. So I get into Carter's in Oshkosh and just like a communications role. Someone comes over to me and they're like, hey, can you proofread this? I'm thinking to myself, no, but sure, fine, great, I'll take a look at it. Well, it's the bones of a training program. And I looked at it and my first thought is, this is horrible. So I just rewrote like a whole section of it, how I thought it should look, me working in stores, what it needed to look like. So I just did it. I brought it back to them. I was like, I know you asked me to like proofread it, but like, this is what I did instead, fully anticipating her to be like, whatever. And she was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So that's how I ended up getting the whole project to rewrite it. So I've never done what was just asked of me. I've always gone above and beyond, etc. Transitioning into my own business, it actually was out of necessity.
Mm.
I found out I was pregnant 3 weeks into the job, and having had a side hustle for so long, the conversation in my head was, if I'm ever going to do this entrepreneurial thing, it's got to be now or I've got to wait 18 years. And that just math wasn't mathing for me.
So you took the jump
Yep.
before having a baby. Wow.
Yep. Well, no, I took the jump. I started the business while I was pregnant and working full time. And then I was able to leave. I left when she was 7 months old.
Mm, I love it. I love that you said you didn't see yourself. And I believe like that's where we get stuck. We don't see ourselves as entrepreneurs. We don't see ourselves as authors. So we don't do it, because we don't see ourselves there. How do you get there? Do you just keep doing it and hopefully you see yourself as that one day? Or do you wait for somebody to say, hey girl, remember when you were good at math that one time? And then you go forward? Like, what was that for you to say, this is what I do, this is who I am?
I'm still stepping into that.
Yeah.
I'm still stepping into that. And I think it's a little bit of that humble and naivete that fuels me because I'm never there yet. I mean, I'm hella there, but I'm never there. So I
Me
think,
too, Liz.
right? Right?
Oh,
Yeah. So I think that is a saving grace in a lot of ways, as much as it is an Achilles heel, because I deny myself a lot of opportunities. I don't show up in places maybe I should or could or whatever, like that whole like bring a seat to the table kind of a thing. All of the things that we as women need to help each other as women get out of our own ways around. I'm guilty as charged on all the counts, right? It's really hard to acknowledge, to recognize any of our gifts and talents. And because we are taught and conditioned the complete opposite.
all the
We are
time.
taught and conditioned that makes you a B, you're bragging too much, don't say that, don't take up too much space, whatever. So we like wholly subscribe to that narrative, kicking and screaming,
Mhm.
but then kicking and screaming our way out of it is a tough one.
That's so true. And it's literally a reminder every single day. Okay, I'm enough. I can do this. I'm just as talented. And it's those consistent conversations you have to have with yourself all the time.
Every day.
Yeah, I love that. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so somebody listen to the podcast. Let's say they have a 9 to 5, they got the side hustle going on, but they're just afraid to put themselves out there on social media. And right now you have to, because some people are ready to go up and turn out, meet people in person. Then others are at the house like, I'm not going anywhere. So for the person that has something that they're building right now, but it's still COVID, still going on, what would you say to them to put themselves out there so they can start selling? Or should selling be the first thing they try to do or not?
You have to sell. I mean, that's your market. Your first 2 to 3 to 5 years. Sorry to break the news of excitement of the overnight entrepreneur, but the first 1 to 2 to 5 years of business are paid for market research. That's all that it is. That's
Mm.
all that it ever is. That's all that it ever is, to be honest. But it's certainly in the beginning, it's paid for market research. A lot of people can't put themselves out there on social because their jobs would not allow it, because there's still a lot of old school thinking out there. So you don't have to be social on the outside of social, but you have to work social. So if you treat social as your Rolodex, right? If you treat social as the place where you house your contacts, but then you work the inside of it, and people don't want to hear this, but you work the phone, you have to have conversations with people. As long as you're using social to get people into your world, to have actual human conversations with people, you'll be golden. But just posting and just doing this and just doing that, like there's exceptions to every rule. People get TikTok famous overnight and stuff. But if you're doing any sort of service based business, you're selling anything with a comma in it, a comma requires a conversation. Don't you think about it?
Say it again for the people in the back, Liz.
Louder. A comma requires a conversation.
And for those who are scared to pick up the phone, do you have like a little skit you could give them real quick? Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I don't do outbound calls. I don't do cold sales. I don't do any of that because it's awful. We hate doing it. We don't like to be on the receiving end of it. This is what people think that sales is. It's 100% not. So I
Right.
actually have a free training called the Conversation Creation Challenge, where I teach you how to do what I did that got me out of corporate, which is use the inside of LinkedIn, stealthy, to invite people to your calendar in a totally normal human way, not like this, hey, I thought you could use my services, like get out of here. No, like actually messaging someone for a purpose with human interaction to get them to your calendar for the purposes of a networking conversation. If you adopt the mindset that you're networking through people, not to people, it removes sales energy. And if you also adopt the mindset equally but opposite, that they're already a client, then you show up in service energy. If they're already a client, you don't have to worry about the point of conversion because they're already a client. You're not going to be afraid to say things to someone or ask someone weird or awkward questions because they're already a client. The logistical part comes in when you're like, all right, let's set an official play date. Noon on Tuesday, 10 grand. What are we looking at? Pretty
I love
straightforward.
it. So you're on the phone with them, or you send them a LinkedIn message. If they're interested, they write you back. You all hop on the phone. How does that conversation flow? Is
Yeah,
it, hey,
It's not a sales call. It can't be any sales energy. I'm not talking about any direct outreach to a prospect. I'm literally talking about starting to network. Because
Mm,
when you're in the baby days, you don't know what you don't know. Most women, most people who are working 9 to 5s, I had a client sum this up perfectly. She's an executive, Wall Street, etc. And she's picking up the phone, shaking, having conversations, shaking, avoiding having conversations. And I'm like, you were on the floor. Like, what are you talking about? How are you? She's never had to introduce herself. She's only ever been introduced.
mm,
That was a holy shift for me. That was a moment where I was like, oh, even just talking about yourself is an entire sales is over here. Sales is like, that's high school compared to where we're starting,
yeah,
which is really just having intentional business conversations. You just have to start with intentional business conversations. And if they can start there with confidence, grace, ease, then the natural result of that will be strategic introductions, referral partners, and someone over the course of at least 10 to 20 conversations is going to say, yeah, could you actually help me with that?
yeah,
They opt in.
yeah. That's true. Oh my God, that's so
Mhm,
good. All right, so you're putting yourself out there. You're learning how to use your voice and talk about
mhm,
yourself, but also
mhm.
in service. What do you decide as far as like a plan for your clients? Okay, let's say somebody's coaching. Let's say somebody's coaching somebody and they're new to coaching. How do you come up with your rubric for coaching your clients, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I've created the invisible business model,
Mm,
which breaks everything down simply. So here's the thing. We as women operate in feminine energy. And by feminine energy, I do not mean like damsel in distress nonsense. Like, I don't know where that came from, but get that all the way out of here. When we get into work mode, we're in masculine energy. That's very like spreadsheety. That's what are we doing next? What's the decision, etc. When we're in coaching mode and service energy, we're in feminine energy. Feminine energy is very fluid, lacks boundaries. What happens is when a woman steps into her coaching business, she's in coaching energy and she just wants to go out there and serve. And I love that. And you can have no impact if you have no structure. So I give them the invisible business model. It's the closest thing to a business in a box so that they can bring their whole self into the equation and be their whole feminine self with a client in a structure. One
mm.
of the things I found is that, and I've been doing this a long time, one of the things I found is that when a woman is coming out of a coaching certification program, like I love working with women when they just graduate. They are brilliant at what the thing that they do and they're chomping at the bit to go get it. And then they come out and they're like, what do I do next? The problem with that is they have no structure.
Mhm.
They're told to get coaching clients for free. They're told to give coaching sessions away, Baskin Robbins pink spoon style, all this other stuff.
Right.
Now, here's the other thing that comes up. They basically have the idea. I'll use a food analogy. And anytime I use a food analogy, I know I'm getting hungry. So, side note, I got to eat after this. But I'm going to use a food analogy here. You say you want to have a dinner party and you invite people over to a dinner party. They say they're going to come, right? Then they get to the door and you're like, did you bring anything? Just kidding. I don't have anything ready. You don't want to invite them into the house. That's what women are doing when they're leaving coaching school. Is
Mm.
they're saying, I'm going to invite people to a dinner party. But then when the rubber meets the road and people are knocking at the door, they're like, the house isn't ready. The house isn't ready. So the invisible business model gives them the business in a box to at least get the silverware down, at least get like a chicken in the oven, like at least get some green beans on the stove or something,
Yeah.
right? Something to get started so they're not wholly embarrassed and they're even a little bit proud because it's kind of like fancy silverware to invite people into the house. Or once you've got someone in your kitchen, like you co-create the meal together. And
Right.
that's how you work with your clients in the beginning is you start to co-create what that package looks like based on how you like to work with people how your people need to be served, where they're getting the best results.
Mm,
You have to co-create that.
that's good. Because a
That's
lot,
where
I
it's
mean, we
more
leave,
market research.
yeah. A lot of us leave college, leave the certification programs, and we're like, oh, yeah, I got it. And like you said, it's literally a halt because you don't even know what to do next, you know? So after you get the invisible business model program,
Mhm.
right? You figure out what your model is, how you're going to relate to your clients. When do you start coming up with products? When you,
It's all in there.
okay,
I
okay.
call it power positioning. I'll just break it down. I have no boundaries. I give it all away. I don't care. They need my help. They're going to come get my help. I do not mind giving it all away.
Yeah.
Someone's going to run with it and take it, have fun with it. Someone's going to need more help. You know how to reach me. It's very easy. Also what I teach. The invisible business model is based on the premise. One, I don't believe in six figures. You can't put that into a calculator. It's not a number. We can't do goals off of a non-number. So I tell them what their goal is. It's 120,000 annually. That's your first income goal. It's the entrepreneurial minimum wage. Don't tell me that you want to replace your income of 60,000. That's cute. We've got all these business expenses. Okay, you've got to pay taxes. Oh, by the way, you've got all these other liability insurance and blah, blah, blahs, right? Your salary is not going to pay for that. Your revenue will. So don't tell me what your goal is, six figures or replacing your salary. Sorry, sweetheart. It's 120,000. So we're done.
Period.
Here, full sentence, complete stop. I'm not negotiating with anybody on that anymore. Done. Now we reverse engineer. Okay, cool. So that's easy math. It's $10,000 a month.
Okay.
Now they got 5-figure months. Cool. Now let's reverse engineer a little bit more. If they're working with, from experience, I know working with a client one-on-one, you really can't get solid results with anyone in less than 90 days.
Yeah.
You really can't.
Yeah.
It's a good enough time to get them solid results. Like we fix the main problem, we crack your back, but then we also give you some exercises to sustain it, right? So there's the instant gratification moment, but that's never enough to actually do any good. You need to continue to work with them. So it has to be 90 days. And it's enough time to build a relationship with someone, and it's not too long where you're like, I don't like it, it's wrong, it's not for me, they don't like me, it's the wrong fit. You're not stuck.
Yeah.
It's a really healthy time frame for both people. So okay, cool. So you're working with somebody for 90 days. Let's do some math around that. 5,000 for a one-on-one service for 90 days seems pretty reasonable in the market for someone who gets to know what they do. So you need 2 clients a month. You need 2 clients a month in the invisible business model to reach the entrepreneurial minimum wage. Does a brand new coach out of coaching school start charging $5,000? Not in my world. Nope. You charge $1.50. I don't care what it is. You charge 32 cents. You charge something, because that's the biggest hump, is to charge something, because I have to remove that conditioning of charging nothing.
Yeah.
I don't care if you charge. My first coaching package, God, I'm always embarrassed when I say this. My first coaching package, 3 sessions for $99, and I drove to you and I bought you lunch.
Okay, I'm gonna do you one. Mine was $47 for 4 sessions.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love
4, and I mean freebies, giveaways.
it. Yes. You sold them. You got people, and you're never doing that again.
No.
Perfect. That's exactly where I want people to start. I don't care if it's 32 cents, $47, 99. I don't care. You charge something, you get someone to pay you, you've got a committed client, and now you can literally say, I'm in business, I have a client.
Yeah.
And you will never charge that again. So that's just where we start. You work your way up. It's all the money blocks that we got to get through, but you will eventually get to 5,000.
Mm.
That's the goal, right? So now if we look at, okay, you need 2 clients a month is the goal. Now we just reverse engineer that. So we know how many sales conversations you need to have. Now we need to know how many outreach, how many networking calls you need to have. And then we reverse engineer that to how many outreaches you need to do.
Mm.
It's math.
Yeah.
When people think that they need to, when they come out of coaching school, they need to talk to everyone. They need to build the funnels. They need to do all the things. And it's like, you don't.
Mm.
With the invisible business model, you're working with really no more than like 6 clients at a time. You need to close 2 clients a month. You need to have 4 sales conversations a month. That's a really, I mean, for starting out, a 50% close rate is good. I'll get you up to 80% and higher for sure. But starting out like 50% is kind of decent. So you have 4 sales conversations a month. You close 2 clients, you're good. From that, you probably are having like, I don't know, 8 to 10 networking calls a month. That's nothing. Like, we're talking baby numbers.
Yeah.
And when we break it down in the math, now all of a sudden the woman can focus on the quality of the connection, the quality of the conversation, and really showing up in service energy to ask better questions, really identify if she can actually legit help the person that she's on the phone with. We're talking transformation. We're
Yeah.
talking about getting inside people's brains.
Yeah.
Like, this is it's dangerous when
Yeah.
you're operating from fear energy. So we have to remove all of that. Like,
Yeah.
you have to show up out of fear energy, not like, I've got to close 50 clients today. No, you don't. No, you don't. And if you do, then we need to have a conversation around why that is and what we can do so that that's not the energy you're operating from. I've gotten jobs over the years. You got to do what you got to do. You cannot show up in that fear energy. So
That's good. You want to leave them with one more nugget?
I got a lot.
Jewel after jewel, people. I hope you all
know.
are catching it. Okay. I've learned so much just sitting here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest takeaway is, if I could boil it down to 3 things, I would say 1 is they're already a client.
Yeah.
They're already a client. Remove that sales energy. 2, how are you going to navigate conversations to make it really simple? The magic formula I have is 80-15-5. 80% of any conversation is the other person talking, aka you listening.
I like
15% is you asking questions.
that.
A few exceptions to that are, help me understand that better, tell me more about that, that's really interesting, keep going, sentence expanders. But that's 15%.
I love that.
Yes. So, I mean, just, you remove yourself from the equation. Only 5% of any conversation is you speaking in full sentences. And that I even break down into a little bit of introduction and a little bit of invitation. There's no pitch. We don't do that. Pitches are for rhymes with that. We don't do that. So that's the second part I would leave them with. And then the third part is, this is where I would say 99% of women fail with love. Always book a something from a something. Always book something from a something. Never okay, well, I'll follow up with you. Okay, bye. No. This was a really great conversation. I'm really curious to see what you did with that information that we talked about. What's your schedule? Are you sitting in front of your calendar? Of course you are. We're all sitting home. What's your calendar look like? I don't know, like 3-4 weeks from now. Let's put something on there. We'll just touch base, see how life is. If it's on there, it's one less thing we have to do later. All right, cool. Noon on Tuesday. Awesome. I'll call you then. No more follow-up. Magical.
It is magic, because really you're just cutting down all the back and forth in email that everybody hates anyway. Always book a something from a something.
Always. It's a very technical equation. I know.
I love it. That's been my entire life. Like, why am I just now meeting you? This is crazy. Oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you so much for coming on the SOULKATION podcast. That was amazing. Make sure you all share this episode with your closest friend, especially if she's thinking about starting a business. She's already in business. She's letting fear take over, her putting herself out there. Please share this episode with everybody. Liz, can you tell everybody where to find you also?
If they go to 120k.club, 120K Club for Women Entrepreneurs, 120k.club, it should take them right to the Facebook group. I've got tons of Teaching Tuesday. We do more classes in there. We've got tons of conversation, women at all different stages in their business, and we all just love on each other. And we say all the things.
All the things. I love it. Thank you so much, Liz, for coming on the podcast.
Yay.
My hope is that your soul just went on a vacay and you have tools that you can apply to your life today. For more in-depth tools, head on over to loganrenee.com. Also, if you have questions that weren't answered on this episode, email your questions to logan@loganrenee.com, and I'll answer them here on the show. I'll talk to you soon.